Hi friends, my name is Linda Resch. I'm a teaching artist. In this two-part video lesson, we're going to study some paintings by the well-known Spanish artist, Joan Miro. We'll make some observations about things that we notice in Miro's artwork, and we'll have a chance to create some Joan Miro-inspired drawings of our very own. This lesson is being sponsored by the North Dakota Council on the Arts and the Northeastern Education Services Cooperative. Thank you to these two fabulous organizations for working so hard to bring artistic opportunities to communities across North Dakota and beyond. To make a drawing with me today, you are going to need at least one sheet of 9 by 12 or 8.5 by 11-inch drawing paper. Computer typing paper works just fine for this. You'll need one or two black markers. I like the Fine Point Sharpie, but any black marker will work. And if you don't have markers, you could use a black crayon instead. Lastly, you're going to need something to color with. I'll be using crayons and markers, but you could use colored pencils, oil pastels, even paint. Now, as you'll see in a moment, Joan Miro liked to work in what we refer to as a limited color palette, meaning he often selected only 4 or 5 colors and used those exclusively throughout his painting. A lot of times he chose to work with the primary colors, red, yellow, and blue, and oftentimes he included green as well. So today we are going to limit our color choices to just the primary colors of red, yellow, and blue. And if you want to, you can also grab a green. Before we make our drawings today, let's take a look at a few paintings by Joan Miro. If you were working as a classroom, you could go around the room and have each student make an observation about what they see when they look at each painting. If you are working in a very large group, you could pair up to discuss things that you notice or split into smaller clusters of 4 or 5. And if you are working alone, you can jot down notes on a piece of paper to help you remember what you saw. So I'm going to show you 3 paintings by Joan Miro. Feel free to pause the video to discuss each piece for longer if you have more than 30 minutes to complete this project. You should also expand your video player so that it covers the entire screen, making the image large. That way you won't become distracted by elements in your background. So let's take a look at our first painting by Joan Miro. I will leave each one on the screen for about a minute. What do you notice about the colors, shapes, and lines that you see? Do you notice any patterns? Maybe you are noticing that one of the shapes or a group of shapes kind of resembles a person, a face, an animal, or something else. Maybe you're only seeing shapes, colors, and lines. And our second piece. And finally, our third painting. Now that you've had a chance to see some artwork by Joan Miro, what are some things that you noticed? Did you notice any similarities between the three paintings? Anything that was different between the three? I noticed that Joan Miro used a lot of black lines in his artwork. Sometimes the lines made shapes. Sometimes the lines had black dots at the ends. Some lines were curvy, others very straight. I noticed that Miro used simple colors in his artwork, usually just the primary colors of red, blue, and yellow, and oftentimes also green. Did you catch how many of his shapes use two colors and that the colors change when the lines intersect with the shape? Did you notice how in two of Miro's paintings there was no background, no foreground, no hills, and no horizon line to give us a sense of space or depth of field? Sometimes the shapes in Miro's artwork looked like objects that we recognize, but not always. Many of the lines and the shapes that we see in Miro's paintings have become known as Miro symbols. And he had a few favorite symbols that he liked to draw in almost all of his artwork. Did you notice that in each of Miro's paintings, we see drawings of stars and eyes? I noticed a shape that looked like a whale tail. What else did you notice in Miro's artwork? While we might never truly know what an artist is trying to say when they create an abstract painting, we probably don't need to know exactly what the artist was painting in order to appreciate the artwork. A great benefit to abstract artwork is that it's open to interpretation, meaning you, as the viewer, get to decide what the piece represents to you. What you see and feel might be different than what your friends are feeling about the same artwork, and that's okay. Abstract artists know that not everyone will know what they are talking about when they make an abstract piece, but they find it exciting that so many people will see their artwork in so many different ways. Have you ever tried to make abstract artwork before? Sometimes it can be kind of hard to make an abstract drawing or a painting. We are taught that our artwork should look like a picture, so it can be hard to draw using only colors, shapes, and lines. Today, I'm going to show you an easy way to create artwork that looks like an abstract painting by Joan Miro. I first learned how to make this project from a teaching artist on YouTube whose channel is named Miss Teresa Art. And I will include a link to that original video in the comments section and the extended playlist. This is one of my favorite projects to take into the classroom, and I've made probably around 50 drawings like this on my own time in the art studio. After we make our project together, I'll show you how I decided to put around 45 of my Miro-inspired drawings to good use. Be sure to stick around until the end of the video because you are not going to want to miss that. But right now, let's make art. So the first thing we want to do is to grab a sheet of paper and crumple it up. After you've crumpled, we're going to very gently uncrumple that paper again. And then we just want to lay it flat on our work surface and smooth it out. You want to be careful when you are uncrumpling your paper, because if you pull too hard or too fast, the paper will tear. It's normal to get some little tears along the edges, but we definitely don't want our paper to rip in half. So after you have smoothed out the creases, flipped your paper over, done a little bit more smoothing, the next step is to take a look at the paper and find some interesting lines that are formed by the creases. Then we're going to take our black marker and trace over some of these lines. If you are working with Sharpie today, it's a good idea to put down a protective covering like a tablecloth or some scrap paper, because Sharpie will bleed through regular typing paper. So I'm going to trace over lines throughout my entire paper. You can be thinking about some of the shapes that you saw in Miro's paintings, like stars and eyes. Remember the whale tail? Want to make sure that I'm working across the whole page, not just in the center or on one side or the other. Sometimes my lines will form shapes. Sometimes they'll just be lines in the sky. Don't worry too much if your line doesn't follow the creases exactly. You might start by tracing creases, and then as a shape of an object starts to emerge, you can use your imagination and draw in other lines to complete what you are seeing. Feel free to include some stars or eyes or the lines that have the black circles at the ends, as we saw in Miro's artwork. You can turn your paper, rotate your paper as you're working. You might start to see a picture forming. This shape right here looks kind of like a deer or some sort of running beast of the wild. Here I can kind of see a bird head starting to form. I think I'm going to make this shape into an eye. I'm starting to get a pretty nice design developing here on my page. See a shape down here that really resembles an eye. So start by tracing lines and creases throughout your entire paper. And as your paper starts to fill up, I'm going to give you another option. I also have common symbols that Joan Miro liked to draw. You can look over these symbols and pick a few that you think would look interesting in your design. I'm seeing a symbol that looks like a face, two eyes and a nose, or maybe a mouth. I see one that looks like a video game controller. There's one that looks kind of like my dog, Marchand. Let's put Marchand in here. Some of these symbols I've used over and over in my Miro drawings. and they've come to mean something special just to me. For instance, this particular symbol looks like a wheel with a horizontal line running through the center. When I draw that symbol, it means that I traveled somewhere in my van. And I think that this symbol kind of resembles a bicycle. Maybe these symbols look like something different to you, and that's okay. The nice thing about Miro's symbols is that you get to assign your own meaning to them. And some of them don't have to mean anything at all. Put my cat Nomad in there as well. There. Once you've filled your paper with lines and shapes and symbols, you can use your crayons or markers or whatever you have to color your picture. Remember, Miro didn't always color in every single shape. How much color you add today is really up to you. But let's try to stick with a limited color palette like Miro often did. Once again, I'm going to limit myself to the primary colors of red, yellow, and blue, and a bonus color of green. Most of the time, I don't really like to color with my marker. I like to save marker for drawing, maybe adding special details. And I usually color with crayon or colored pencil over the top of marker lines. We'll be talking more about that in an upcoming video. I like that I can make my crayon lighter or darker just by changing the amount of pressure that I use when I'm coloring. Most of the time, Miro's shapes changed color when a line crossed through the shape. Remember, you don't have to color in all of your shapes today, just the ones that you choose. A broken crayon without a wrapper can also produce a really nice effect. If you rub the side, really makes that texture show through. I'll put a little black up in my sky. Felt kind of empty with all that white space up there. Don't feel bad if your abstract artwork does not turn out to look like a picture today. That is just fine. Remember, Miro kept his artwork quite simple, often childlike, and that was what gave it its charm. So I figured that you guys might like to see what I did with all of my Miro-inspired drawings. I decided to use them as wallpaper in my studio. Most of these I completed with elementary school students in Jamestown. I absolutely love how it looks with all of them together side by side like this, especially because they were designed individually with really no thought put into how they would all look displayed together. Yes, it is pretty obvious that these are individual sheets of computer typing paper, but does that bother me? No, it does not. I do feel the need to disguise these seams. I can just color over them with crayon or oil pastel. Check out my doodle grid, isn't it awesome? I also created a doodle grid of Miro symbols all over the floor. This floor was bare plywood, no paint on it at all. So I gave it like several coats of paint, probably a couple of gallons actually. And I drew a doodle grid of Miro symbols, and I really, really love it. Thank you so much for making art with me today. I hope you had fun creating your Joan Miro inspired drawing. Stay tuned for part 2 of this lesson coming very soon. And thank you again to the North Dakota Council on the Arts and the Northeastern Education Services Cooperative for sponsoring this video. And a special thank you to the Arts Center in Jamestown, North Dakota, for providing a space for me to create projects like these. Be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel, Sketching Spot, to catch all of my art tutorials, travel sketching videos, and more. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you soon. Cheers!